The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program. The views and opinions expressed in the commentaries and/or interviews in the following program are solely those of the individuals and are not views of Papi Chulo Radio, its parent, affiliate, or subsidiary companies.
Welcome to Storybrooke Weekly Mirror in Wonderland, the unofficial Once Upon a Time in Wonderland internet radio show exclusively on PapiChuloRadio.com. Papi Chulo Radio, pop culture on demand. I am your host, Papi Chulo. During tonight's broadcast, we're going to revisit ABC's Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. Later on in the broadcast, get ready for a spoiler alert as we bring you the hit ABC series' Easter eggs and ratings. Please welcome my wondrous co-hosts. She was hoping to pick your brain about a former patient. It's Katie Cat.
Oh, yes, I was. Hey, guys. Hope you're doing good tonight.
And she got stuck in the Black Forest. It's Brittany.
Why am I always the darkness? I'm the queen of darkness, and now I'm getting stuck in the Black Forest. But you know what? It's all accurate. I don't know what I'm complaining about. Hey, guys. I'm ready to dig into this episode.
Speaking of the Black Forest, some of our other co-hosts are currently stuck in the Black Forest. So hopefully they will be back in the next episode. But
never.
Oh, gosh. At this moment, though.
I'll never let them go. I'm just kidding.
Oh, gosh. At this moment, though, let's jump into our recap of episode 1.06, which was titled Who's Alice? And originally aired on November 21st, 2013. Here's the official synopsis of the episode. Jafar plays a visit to the asylum and Dr. Lydgate to uncover information about Alice. While in Wonderland, Alice heads to the Black Forest on her quest. Meanwhile, the knave is awakened by magic with the help of an unlikely ally, and he goes in search of Alice, only to find her in terrible danger, and Cyrus does his best to evade the Red Queen. In flashback, Alice returns to Victorian England and her father after losing Cyrus. So I want to get everyone's initial reaction to their rewatching of the episode. So let's start off with Katie.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember this episode. Nothing super intriguing happened in this episode. I think my favorite parts were the things that happened with Jafar, but otherwise, it was kind of not my favorite, especially after the last episode. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, well, Brittany, what are your initial thoughts on the episode after Katie's very brief assessment?
I'm gonna have to agree with her. I think nothing really sticks with you this episode, and it's kind of sad because last episode was so amazing. We all gave it a golden mushroom. You know, the four of us that were there. So to come to this episode and kind of be a little out of place, or not out of place, but you just didn't feel as connected to it. I mean, I do agree that the Jafar scenes were very, very well done, but if there's something that didn't really, entrance me, it was definitely Alice getting stuck in the Black Forest. Like, I think that entire plot line was just not the best, but I did enjoy Jafar scenes, and I did kind of enjoy the flashbacks just a little bit, but also they frustrated me because it was very cliche, evil stepmother kind of thing, and we understand that Alice, everything she's been through is real. but it's also frustrating that in the time period she lives in, it's regarded as insanity and um make believe, and it's so disheartening to see that she arrives right after she loses Cyrus, and her dad is like, well, you need to forget about him because he's not even real. And you're just kind of like, wow, what is up with everyone's parents in like Once Upon a Time and in Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, like nobody has amazing parents, seriously, like what the hell. And I it was so frustrating to be with Alice the entire episode in the flashbacks, as she's struggling with getting over with Cyrus, and also people telling her you need to because he wasn't real or whatever. So but other than that, it was very mediocre in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It was not the best episode. I mean, I would say even a horrible episode of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland is better than a lot of the crap that's on television nowadays.
That's true.
Mhm.
True.
But compared to the previous episode, in which it was sort of a clean sweep of the golden mushrooms, this one was nowhere near golden. So I am looking forward to chatting about it with both of you, though. But before we do, here are a few reminders on how you can interact with the show via social media.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Storybrooke Weekly Mirror. Follow Poppy Chula Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Poppy Chula Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@poppychularadio.com. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chula Radio team as an on-air personality? Email talent@poppychularadio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chula Radio programs by visiting poppychularadio.com/archives.
Alright, so let's start off with what's going on in Wonderland in the present day. We have Alice, who's setting out on a quest to find Cyrus, and she ends up on a toll road, which is also the Queen's Road, and she comes across two toll attendees, let's call them, right, Katie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And they basically like, this is a toll road, you need to pay the toll. And they warn her about the upcoming Black Forest, and they attack. But Alice, of course, easily fights them off, takes their torch, and continues on her questy way. And we see that the knave sets out in search of Alice, and he comes across an old man in a wagon and asks for water. And it was interesting because they talk about stoning, and he was stoned, and he's like, stoned? You were stoned? And he's like, no, I was like literally a stone. And he comes across the two thugs that Alice defended herself against, and they reveal that despite their threats, she was headed to the dark forest, basically. So we catch up with Alice, who, after 3 signs warning her about the dark forest, she comes to the end of the road where there's a bit of like a temporal portal of darkness. And she's like, well, might as well, I've seen everything else, might as well step through this. And so she steps into it and keeps moving, and suddenly her torchlight blows out, but not before seeing light. And she believes that she's made it out of the dark forest, and she's greeted in this like lush world of, it's like this beautiful forest, all this lush greenery full of purple and white flowers, and a very happy man. And she tries to continue on her way, but the man, who reveals himself to be a carpenter, tells her to stay. It's a beautiful forest, these flowers, stay. And the flowers begin to diffuse a purple fragrant mist, and Alice becomes happy, and she slowly starts to lose her sense of self while she's in this forest. The knave ends up catching up to her, and he's not affected by the purple haze or the beauty of the forest, and it takes him a while to plead with Alice, and he realizes that the man that's there is like part tree, and he's not even a person at that point in time. And Alice starts to lose herself, and she starts to become a tree as well, and she starts to become a part of the forest. But the knave keeps reminding her of Cyrus, and he gives her the necklace back, the one that glows. And Alice starts to remember herself, and she's able to free herself and Will from the magic of the forest. So I figured we just go through that storyline all in one foot, because it was a pretty self-explanatory storyline, a very straightforward storyline. So let's discuss Alice's adventure in the dark forest. What'd you think of it, Brittany?
I thought it was probably the weakest part of the episode, which is weird because it when you were talking about it right now, it sounds amazing, but for some reason I really couldn't get entranced into it. But I did like the element of using that mysterious mist, and she's just like, oh wow, it's wonderful, and it kind of, I guess, reminded me of like when my mom is baking cookies or anything in the house, and you're just like, oh my god, why does my house smell amazing, and why can't it smell like this all the time? And you kind of get lost with it, and I know I'm always talking about food. I'm always hungry, guys, like no matter what. But I think people can relate to that, when you go into a pastry restaurant or anything, you're just kind of like, wow, this is amazing. So that's how I interpret it when Alice goes into that forest. I feel like that's what she's smelling. She's smelling happiness. And it was just a little bit of very cliche, that she, well, it was contrasting, I guess, with the flashbacks of how her family life was after the Cyrus thing and her coming back, and then she just wants to be happy, and she hasn't been happy since she was last with Cyrus. So it was easy for her to get lost, just like last episode, how it was not easy, but she was seduced. Anna was seduced by the king into all the riches, and then here Alice is being seduced by this fragrance of happiness, and she's kind of letting go. And I guess that's one thing I can admire from her, is that usually the heroes don't, they don't fall for this stuff. It's usually their companions or something, and the hero's the one that thrives through. But we had switch roles. We had Will get in there and be the one to talk her out of it and bring her back, and that was pretty cool. That's why I think I like Will Scarlet a lot, and he's still my favorite character. But we learn why he's not affected, which I thought was a really cool twist later. But overall, it was okay. I saw what they were trying to do, but it didn't really interest me. But it did get me hungry and remind me of cookies. So.
Oh my gosh. Katie, what do you think of Alice's trek through the forest?
I actually did like this scene a lot. I forgot about this scene for like, I don't know why. I'm just thinking about the Jafar scenes, I think. But I really did like this plot line. I mean, it didn't add much. If you think about it, it really didn't add that much to the entire storyline. It's kind of like this random subplot, I guess you could say, but it was interesting. I like the idea of the forest and the area, and I like the idea of what they went with, even though it kind of didn't really have any bearing on the story much. But I really did like the idea, and I like how we got to see her slowly kind of succumb to the influence of the area, and begin to forget who she was, what everything was, that her journey. She forgot who Will was. She forgot everything. And it was interesting to see Will go in there and not be affected at all. We find out why later, but it was interesting when you're watching it, especially the first time when you first saw it, you're kind of like, well, everyone else is affected by this. Why is Will just walking through like nothing's affecting him at all? But that was, kind of clues as to what we find out later, which was interesting. So I did like it. It really didn't add much, but I thought it was fun. And I liked the idea of it.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It was interesting for what it was. After coming off such a strong episode, I feel like I don't know. It was like it was almost like a respite from the action. I do like how they sort of tried to incorporate some of like the Wonderland lore with it. You know, with the Carpenter and the Burrow Grove and that kind of thing. But I don't know, it didn't fully add anything to it. It was almost like a means to like stop the action. While interesting, it was still a means to sort of just stop the action from continuing on going forward. You know, it was almost as if they were stuck in quicksand, for lack of a better word.
It was like a little filler, like sub arc.
Yeah,
Honestly.
yeah, exactly.
It was for them that this storyline was filler because everything else I feel progressed their storylines, like the other storylines in the episode, and this one was a bit of a. It's almost as if they needed something to stop them from continuing on their quest.
Yeah.
So they basically put them in quicksand. I mean, it wasn't literally quicksand, but they were stuck in
Yeah.
this place for a little while.
Yeah, it didn't further the Alice and Will like journey
Yeah, all
to
it
finding
really-
Cyrus and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, all it really did was like give you kind of an idea of a reveal later about Will. Like, why is he not affected by this? That was
Yeah.
really it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say though that tree man was creepy as fuck. Like that was just so nasty when we saw it.
Yeah, it was a little disturbing, maybe. Like
It was. I was like, that's so fucking gross.
considering the scenery, which I think it would look really, really incredible. To be honest, I thought that it contributed to Alice being like, you know, entranced by it.
Yeah, it was very pretty. Like that was very, very
Yeah.
good CGI all around.
Yeah,
It
and that's considering that I don't like to be outside right now. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's getting like hotter every year. But if and then I live like near the tropic zone, like in Texas, so it's hot. It's hot and humid. But I have noticed that when I have traveled, and I think the farthest I ever went was in Arkansas. There's a lot of forests, and and it's so nice and it's cool. It's like in the 60s and 70s, and it's beautiful. It's green, and I'm like, you know, I would have got lost too. I would have wanted to be lost in the forest as well.
All right now. Speaking of someone that's trying not to be lost, while all this is going on, the Red Queen is hot on the trail of Cyrus, who, remember, he escaped at the end of the previous episode. The Queen and her Tweedles come to a stream where it appears on first glance that Cyrus had crossed over, but she ends up using her magic to discover that Cyrus had doubled back onto his previous steps. I've got to say that something that I've really enjoyed with this series is seeing different ways to use magic, because the Red Queen, even to this day, has used magic in different ways than like our magical queens and kings and sorcerers on the mothership. Like they use different spells and different tracking spells and things of that nature. I think it's fascinating. I love the different usages of magic throughout both series. I don't know. I find it interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And so she ends up running into Cyrus. Cyrus has come to the edge of a cliff, only to discover that it's not like the edge of a cliff. It's actually the edge of a floating island. Remember those floating islands that we saw back in the pilot? Well, they're on an actual floating island. And the Queen comes upon him, and she tries to argue her philosophy that true love isn't always the most important thing. But Cyrus, much like Alice in the previous episode, decides that it really is, and he takes his own leap of faith and jumps off the edge of the floating island, much to the Red Queen's chagrin. Any thoughts on what we saw of Cyrus and the Red Queen in this episode?
It was just a witch hunt, man. Well, a
Yeah.
one-man witch hunt. But I enjoyed the little scene she had with her servant, which by the way, I guess I've never said, but I do like her servants.
The Tweedles.
Yeah, and one of
Right.
them is betraying her, right? Not both of them. It's
Yeah,
just one of
yeah,
them.
it's one of them. Yes.
Yeah. So I just think that they're so funny, like the way their mannerisms, and they're so like, oh my god, I love them, and I like how one of them, the one that's with her, is like, I don't know if you can do this. You're a queen, and she's like, I can get my hands dirty, and I'm like, yeah. And shout out to her.
Yeah.
Shout out to the wardrobe in this episode. I mean, we haven't talked about it, but Jafar has some really great stuff. But the queen, I think she had a really great outfit. She looked like she had like what the horse riders wear. I'm not really sure, like the pantsuit, the pants and the boots, but also she had like
yeah.
a dress. Like it was just so pretty. Like maybe that's just the fangirl in me of being a fangirl of the Red Queen, but um, it was just really fun seeing her just chase Cyrus and to find him too. I love it. I will never get bored of just seeing the queen, the Red Queen, chase or look for somebody. And I would rather have her doing something than have her be absent from the episode entirely. So I liked her little sub quest that was going on. I thought it was really really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought it was smart of Cyrus, the whole where he kind of backtracked in his own steps to kind of throw people off of his trail. And have we gotten to that part yet?
Yeah, we talked about the entire storyline of Cyrus and the Red Queen.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so yeah, I liked that part, and I like how the queen, it didn't really throw her off that much. She's like, really, I've been there. I know the tricks of the trade, and she found him, and it didn't, really affect, his whole trying to escape her, didn't work in the end. But it was a really cool, I guess, chase. Fun little subplot for Cyrus since he doesn't do too much at this point. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I like that he has sort of like that cunning, smart, clever thing that Alice has in her sort of whenever she has a plot or a plan to do, like she has this sort of like clever ability to think a couple steps ahead, and he thought many steps ahead, I guess literally in a sense. So that was awesome to see and to see that he was thinking ahead and making sure that people wouldn't be able to follow him. Unfortunately, magic was involved, so he ended up getting caught. And I do like that he leapt off the floating island. I don't know if I could do that, because it's like a floating island, and that means that it's like all the way up in the sky, and I've seen what happens in Avengers Age of Ultron, and I don't know if I could leap off a floating island. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, no.
Agree.
We don't do that. That's dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know. But, okay, so before we get into sort of I think the really interesting storyline of the episode, let's talk about the flashback. So the flashback shows us Alice returning to her home after disappearing yet again. And this time, when she disappeared, this is when Cyrus was quote-unquote killed in front of her. The Red Queen tossed him into the boiling sea. So Alice feels like she's lost Cyrus forever. So she runs into a girl, and we end up finding out that her father, Alice's father, has remarried, had another child, and all that kind of stuff. His wife is very pushy and cold, and Alice is very unhappy, back in her own world. And Alice's father encourages her to forget about Cyrus, not to speak of it, especially to young Millie. And, it seems as if Millie is like the one that really believes and feels for Alice. But soon, Alice's stepmother, Sarah, tries to meddle and basically, I don't necessarily know what her motivations are, but at this point, I should say, but she invites a young man by the name of Mr. Darcy to call upon them, and she's hell-bent on finding a suitor for Alice, to make her a proper woman, for the time and all that kind of stuff. And Alice, of course, makes a scene because she's just emotional, and she's thrust back into her old world, but her old world is no longer the same. Things have changed. Time has passed, and her father has moved on to a new family. And so her father ends up giving Alice an ultimatum. Get well, be happy, fit into society, or be committed to the asylum. And Alice chooses the Bethlehem Asylum. And that's pretty much the flashback. We see everything that leads up to Alice being inside of the asylum, which we saw at the start of the season. So thoughts on the flashback, Katie?
It was interesting. You kind of see just why Alice is so devastated by her father and why she feels so betrayed by her family. She comes back and all of a sudden he's married and he has a daughter and he doesn't believe her, and the wife hates Alice and eventually has her committed. And no matter what she tries, he will not believe her. And it's hard to see that she went back specifically to get proof for him, and she comes back and he still doesn't believe her. And it's just, you can see why she's so heartbroken by her father, why he's broken her heart, and why she's not so quick to wanting to forgive him in future episodes. But it was a nice flashback to kind of see, just get a feel more for Alice's character. So that was appreciated, I guess you could say.
Brittany?
Yeah, I have to agree with Katie. I think one of the things that stood out to me was, I guess I kind of didn't take into consideration that time has passed. Like, I don't know. I don't know if if Wonderland is real time as well, or it's like if you stay there for like 3 months, it's been 3 years. I don't know if they've explained that, or we're just supposed to assume it's real time. So the way Alice's father talks to her about this, he's like, are you gonna go again, or are you gonna stay? Um so my guess is it's been years, and it's a weird relationship Alice has with Wonderland, but it is what it is, right? So time has passed. Millie's like what, like 5, maybe 6? I don't even know.
Yeah,
See,
something around that.
yeah, see, that's why I'm trying to get around the time, because then I'm wondering, like, well, how old was Alice last time? He saw her, and then now that he has a family and a new family and another daughter, um, and I love that Alice never holds any hostile feelings towards Millie. It's more of the stepmother who, I don't want to say. I mean, I did say she was evil, but the mother is kind of wants her out of the picture, but not in a cruel way, until like the end, where she's like, yeah, she needs to go to the asylum because she cuckoo, but she is trying to help her first with getting a suitor. Um, it's just everything is so misplaced, because yeah, she's trying to help her, but she's trying to make her do it now. Like, this is me time. Like, this is our family, and you're being weird, so you need to get out as soon as possible. And it's so heartbreaking to see Alice, like, just went through what we saw in episode 1 with losing Cyrus, and everyone just telling her he's not real, Why are you screaming his name when you're asleep? It's so frustrating. And her dad is it's really hard for me to be sympathetic towards him, but I do feel more for Alice because Alice kind of tells us, I didn't really have a childhood because when mother died, you didn't even exist as my parent. You weren't even my father. And now you have this whole family when I'm gone. Like what the fuck, man? Why you do this? Um so it's complicated, it's weird, but the father doesn't make a good case for himself for me to be like, "Well, Alice, you shouldn't be a resentful little bitch." But
Oh gosh.
I can see why she is, and I felt it too, and I think that's credit to the writers because if you can feel what the character's feeling, or you feel for them, you feel angry for them, you feel frustrated for them, I think that's commendable because you can have characters there where you're like, I don't give a shit about, I don't care, but I felt so frustrated for Alice, but I also liked how Millie was very interested. And you could say that that's credit to children being impressionable and believing anything. But if there's one thing I know about kids is that I think they can sense sincerity a lot better than adults can. I think it's kind of like how there's that, I don't know if it's true, but how kids are more prone to seeing ghosts or spirits, if you believe in that stuff, more so than adults. Because apparently in every scary movie the kids can see the fucking ghost because I don't know, but
Oh
because they're
gosh,
more
what's it with you and kids in horror movies?
I'm telling you, well, because they always put them there, but they
Oh
make
my gosh.
they make it a point to say that because children are more pure that way, that they can see things like in a pure way, even if they are a demon that they're talking to. But that's why I think I really appreciate Millie. They could have gone the cliche way with like the Cinderella story with the evil stepmother and the evil stepsister, but they only had like a mildly evil stepmother and then a really, really sweet daughter. And I think Alice was taking a liking to her. And I like how Millie was like, "Who's Cyrus? Tell me who he is." And she sits down, and Alice is not really telling her anything, but Millie wants to know. And I thought that was very sweet. But Alice's ultimate decision to go to the asylum, I think, was the best thing to do. Although they kind of forced her out, but I understood why she left. Although I would have thought that she would have run away or something. And knowing how she lived in the wilderness in Wonderland, that she could have done that there. But I think she was just at a total loss, man. She just wanted to get rid of all of the bad things she was feeling and trying to get over Cyrus. And you know, she tried to compare losing her mother and Cyrus to her father to let him relate to what she's going through, but the dad couldn't. And I was like, "You're an asshole. Get out of there, Alice." But she goes to a really bad place with a really creepy bald guy. So
Oh gosh.
he's so creepy. I don't like him. I've never
Yeah,
liked.
me neither.
They casted him really well to have that really creepy, like
He will haunt your nightmares.
he's like Igor, but like not demented.
Okay.
But he's still ugly. Yeah. So.
Well, there you go. I really felt for Alice because, like, the only thing she wants, and, like, you could see it in her eyes, is she wants her father to believe her. And it breaks my heart because like, she does a really good job portraying that, and the writers have done a really good job at writing it because, like, it's just beautifully acted, and like you just feel so bad for her, and like you get that feeling of just disappointment in the father. It's like, come on, dude, like all she wants is for you to believe her. And I don't know, it just makes that story like extra sad for me. So the flashback was just sad. I mean, it was a very sad, despondent Alice. She's just learned, or I should say, she just saw the love of her life get killed. At least in her eyes, he's dead, and she has to return to this world that she thought was going to be familiar to her, and it wasn't. Time had passed. There's a new family there. And she had disappeared, and she had disappeared many times prior to that. Her father moved on, and, from the outsider looking in, I mean, I can kind of get where Sarah was coming from, because all of a sudden, like, you have this woman who seems kind of crazy, like, returning to your new spouse's life, and you've developed this life, like, she's like, maybe you should just leave, like, go get married, and have some babies, and move into a different house. I need to protect my daughter. I can get that side of things, but we care for Alice. Like, we don't care about Sarah. Like, we care about Alice, and what she was doing certainly wasn't healthy for Alice. And so it was just, I would say, like, these are just depressing flashbacks. And a great work from Alice. Just she really did a great job at sort of expressing the character and whatnot. Sophie Lowe did a really good job with Alice in the flashbacks. So let's get into the really interesting storyline. So the episode starts off with a bam! A portal opens, the rabbit hops out, Jafar hops out. They're in the Victorian England universe, and he asks a gentleman that's doing a painting, the asylum. He's like, a rabbit? A hole? You popped out? What? He's like, asylum. Where is the asylum? And so he's like, over there. He's like, oh, okay, thank you. And so after gaining new threads, Jafar poses as a fellow doctor to Dr. Lydgate, and he starts inquiring about Alice, and Lydgate denies ever knowing such a person until Jafar whips out the white rabbit from his, I don't know what you would call that, a medical satchel or something?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure, why not? Which forces Lydgate to divulge the truth about Alice and Wonderland. And he also gives him the information about Alice and Alice's father and where Alice's father is living. And so in the final scene of the episode, we see Alice's father, Edwin, and he gets a knock on the door, and he says that, we don't need anything, anything like that. And Jafar explains that he knows where Alice is and that he can take him there. Dun dun dun. So it was a very brief storyline, but I felt it was the most interesting and impactful storyline of the episode. What do both of you think?
I think so. It shows just how far Jafar is willing to go. He's willing to go to a different land, and land he's probably never been to, and to get leverage against Alice. And he follows through with it, and he gets what he was looking for. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see him in like a Victorian England outfit to go from like his long flowing robes and his snake staff and all this stuff, and then he's in like a top hat and a suit. It's interesting to see a character like that make that kind of a transition, but yeah.
Brittany, your thoughts on Jafar's adventure in Victorian England?
Oh man, I feel like it was way too brief, but I understood like everything they gave us. It made sense, and I do love that the first thing he does when he gets there is compliment the guy's suit, and then he obviously takes it. But I just love that he goes in there with his magic hat, and unfortunately the rabbit's not in the hat. He could have totally pulled out that trick.
Oh, that would have been amazing. Although now
awesome.
I'm picturing a man in his knickers, like running through the
that
park.
I know, that would have been hilarious. So I just love, and then his hair game was on point as well, and I just love that he's in this new place, but he like totally fits in. He folds the doctor, um, and he gets what he wants. He came here to get leverage on Alice, and he gets it. And I think that's another just another reason why Jafar is an outstanding villain. Like we don't need him in every episode, always threatening Alice. We need him to be doing something about it. Like tell us why we should fear him. Tell us why Alice should fear him. And we get in this episode, and we think that it's gonna be done in the first couple of minutes where he's with the doctor and he's learning all the stuff about Alice, and I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. But then they go further into where he meets up with Alice's father and says, "Oh, I can take you to Wonderland." I was like, "Oh, you motherfucker, you went to the dad." Like, I say what you want about or what we saw in the flashbacks of Alice's father and the way he, doesn't really believe his daughter, um, but Alice still loves him dearly. That's never been questioned. I think she feels a little betrayed, but that doesn't mean that her love for him, disappeared. It's still there. Because her dad did try to understand her, and he does miss her, but it is kind of hard to believe such a story. So having Jafar get there all sexy with his hat,
Oh
um,
gosh.
you know, it was a fantastic cliffhanger in my opinion. Because I'm kind of like, oh shit, are we bringing him to Wonderland? Like, what's gonna happen? Is Jafar gonna kill him? Because I wouldn't put him past it. So I'm excited. I loved it. Jafar is he's so good. He's so good, and I think he's a brilliant villain. Uh, and just that hat. Maybe it is just the suit. I mean, I'm just a sucker for the wardrobes, but I just love that it's a villain that went and got what he wanted, and maybe more. I don't even think he was gonna, get the father. He just got the information, and from there he took it into his own hands. So awesome. Jafar is amazing.
Can I just say it was weird seeing Dr. Lydgate guzzling down a couple of drops of poison?
Yeah, that was
A
yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. But it's okay, he ugly, so.
Well, there's that. They should have sent his ass to Wonderland.
Yeah, but I love that, he was being an asshole in like the first episode when we meet him, and now he's like tormented by what he saw, and it was just literally a talking, walking rabbit, on two legs. So I just love that. It's kind of like karma came and bit him in the ass, and I'm like, yeah, you drink that poison. Because it's not that he was only mean to Alice. I'm pretty sure he was torturing and doing other things to the patients there, mentally ill or not. Which we can conclude maybe probably half of them aren't even sick. I mean, if we so it's kind of like I feel no sympathy for this guy. I mean, that was the time back then. Doing certain things would make you go into an asylum, but they never treated you. They never helped you. They actually almost always made you worse. So, no sympathy for me, fat boy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a shame that it was just a couple scenes because this was like the highlight of the episode, in my opinion. It was fascinating, as both of you said, to see Jafar in a different realm, in different clothes, having to, at least in the beginning, play a character in a sense. And that was interesting because I guess he must have either heard of this realm or he had to have known a little bit about it, because how would he know that he had to like dress as a doctor, and that kind of thing. And I don't know, it was just interesting.
Yeah, because he's from Agrabah, and that's not in Wonderland, so he's got to have some experience in different realms. But this is
exactly.
This would be definitely one I don't think he's been in, because I don't think he's ever needed to. So, but that was pretty cool. So.
Yeah, and then of course the ending with the cliffhanger of Jafar meeting Alice's father. Nothing good is gonna happen because of that. So I'm excited to see what happens next. So, any final thoughts on this episode before we head into the MVP?
No, I think we're good. I do want to say that Alice, the way she was, almost what was how hard she was resisting against Will in that forest, scene was it was pretty intense and great acting. And once again, I like the dynamic of Will and Alice, and probably for the first time ever that it's not a romantic one, or I don't ship them. Like, because
Yeah,
some people like to
exactly.
some people, or some fans do like the two companions, a boy and a girl on an adventure, and their chemistry is just amazing and they belong together. And here it is amazing, but I don't feel the romance. I feel something else, which is like a really strong friendship that's building. Not that it was already there, but that it's building up to be one. And I like Will Scarlet. I mean, he's a thief and he makes bad decisions and he's been through heartache, but he still finds a way to help Alice when she needs it the most. So I can appreciate that a lot. And
Oh, right now.
Jafar's hair, amazing.
There you
That's
go.
all
Yes.
I always
We have to mention it.
yeah.
So now it's time for the MVP, the most valuable player, the character that impressed you the most, and why. And we'll start off with Katie.
Okay, I'm gonna choose Will because of the scene where he kind of gets Alice back to her senses, regarding, how when she's forgotten about herself and all of this, he kind of talks her out of it and talks her back to reality. So I really liked him in this scene, especially. But I mean, I like him in the entire show for sure. But I especially liked him in this episode in that one particular scene.
Brittany.
Ooh, you chose the person I was gonna choose, Katie. How dare
Dang
you?
it.
No
Um,
cookies for you.
Yeah. Well,
Aw.
we didn't mention the twist for him at the end, which was that he doesn't have his heart.
That's
Which
right.
I think we all could have, I think, assumed, even though we never really talked about it or theorized it, but I think it made sense, like when he spoke to what was it, Silver Mist, in like episode 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
The way he was acting, he's like, I really don't feel anything. Like they gave us hints that he does not have his heart, and that's
It
why
was a major hint.
yeah, and that he didn't feel affected by the fragrance. And I'm like, oh, it's because you have no heart. So all right, well, I even like you more now, a man without feelings. I love it. But my MVP definitely is going to go to Jafar because hair game on point. But no, like I'm pretty sure I listed the reasons already. That he's just a fantastic villain where he's shown cruelty, to humans and animals. He's willing to betray his allies. He's willing to go to another world to dig dirt on you and then use that against you. Like, this guy has got it all, and a magic carpet, and he looks good in the suit. Like, he's everything. Jafar wins everything. MVP Jafar, 2016. But for him, 2013, because that's when it came out.
Yes. Oh gosh, too much. Yeah, that really doesn't leave that much to choose from, to be quite honest. But well, I have to choose because I'm given an MVP, and I can't choose Jafar or Will. I'm gonna go with Cyrus for his ingenuity of like double backing and whatever with the tracks and stuff, and then his sort of like rebuking of like the Red Queen and like true love, and like she was like, oh, love isn't all that, and he was like, it's everything. And then he literally took that leap from the floating mountain, in hopes of finding Alice and escaping. So I'll give props to Cyrus.
Many props.
It was either that or Jafar's hair.
Well, yeah, you can give Cyrus all the credit because he's not. They presented him as the cliche love interest. It's so pretty and stuff, but he's actually doing something. He's not still in a cage, like, oh my god, Alice, save me, I can't do anything. He broke out and he's still trying to find her. Like, props to Cyrus breaking the cliche, man purse guy, like he's doing amazing.
Yeah.
I
Like,
agree.
the fact that he's floating in the air and he can't really get to her very easily doesn't stop him.
Yeah.
Very true.
Fantastic.
Okay, so let's rate the episode. We have a mushroom scale, remember. It's 1 to 10. You can use the point system, and of course, if you find an episode to be exceptional and you feel that it's worth more than 10, you may give it a golden mushroom. So, going in the same order, we'll start off with Katie.
Okay, I think this sounds like a horrible rating, but I feel like I want to give it like a 6. I was maybe like a 5.5. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna.
Katie's one of those strict teachers, y'all.
Yep. I'm gonna go with a 6. Okay. Just because I mean, there were some really good moments in this episode, and the CGI, especially during the scene in the forest, there was really beautiful. But it just wasn't an episode that stuck out to me, and I didn't really. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I'm always going to enjoy every episode in Wonderland in the show, but it just really didn't stick out to me, and yeah, so 6 mushrooms, unfortunately.
Oh my.
Good grief. Sounds like you gave us like stale mushrooms. Can mushrooms be stale?
No, you're giving the good shrooms.
Like rotting?
You're giving the shrooms.
Oh gosh. Brittany, what's your rating?
I actually agree with Katie. I'm gonna give it a 6. My basis on usually grading an episode is that factor if and when I do a rewatch, or I'm gonna binge watch again a series after I've seen it once, it's is this episode worth rewatching? Like, if I'm gonna rewatch the entire thing, can I skip it? That's also another question I ask. And if I can, then it's probably not a good episode. And like I said, this was kind of filler. So when it's filler, it's like anime to me, which means I can skip it because it has nothing to do with the main storyline. I will watch it once, and it has some good stuff. And like Katie said, CGI good, but not enough for me to want to rewatch it again. And I'm only rewatching it now for you guys, and because I forgot. But now that I know, it's alright, but it's not horrible either. Let me make that clear. It's not like, oh my god, I can't watch this. It's just, okay. So I definitely give it more than a 5. So definitely 6.5 for me.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Ooh.
Yeah, initially, as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a 7. Or at the end of it, I was like, this is gonna be a 7. You know, when we do this recording, I'm gonna be like 7, because it was like C. A 7 is to me like, if we're gonna do it like on a grade scale, like 7 would be like 70%, which would be like a C. But after talking about it, I have to bump it down to like a 6.5, which would be sort of like a high D, I think.
D is still passing in my college, so there you go.
Yeah, I think it could be like a D plus, but it's just I don't know. It's like, it was not a strong episode. I mean, there were elements that were really good, and there were elements that just didn't work. It was a bit of a fillery storyline for Alice and Will, although it was interesting in the sense, because I feel like the Dark Forest had interesting elements to it. But if we're going to compare episodes, the previous one was superb, and this one was just okay. And as much as I sort of praised Sophie Lowe on her acting, in particular in the flashbacks were long, and they felt compared to the rest of the episode, very boring.
Yeah. It was I
They
think
weren't
they-
that interesting.
yeah, I think they were trying to contrast the sadness of her past to as a reason why she got lost so easily in the forest of being happy. I think they were
yeah.
trying to do it. So I totally got it, but like you said, I think they dragged it a little too much. Like I don't think they really needed to add some of the scenes like when they man, I can't even think of one, but yeah, there was just some
Like
scenes.
when she was trying to set her up.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I mean, I saw like the breaking of the glass to show that she's not over it, but yeah, there was just some things there that I agree weren't that great, but not a horrible episode, just my.
I agree. Yeah. So now it's time to get a little spoilery. Let's dive into some Easter eggs featured in this week's episode of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland and the Once Upon a Time television universe. This is an official spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Check out our official Facebook like page by visiting facebook.com/Storybrooke Weekly Mirror. We're going to start off with the ratings. When this episode initially aired, it was viewed by 3.53 million total viewers. A quick shout out to the opening title card, which featured the Burrow Grove. This episode featured a rendition of the Alice in Wonderland story focusing on Alice's return from Wonderland. Obviously, it included characters from that story, such as the Knave of Hearts and the White Rabbit. From the sequel, Through the Looking Glass, it featured characters from that story, including the Carpenter, the Tweedles, and the Red Queen. And of course, from the Aladdin story, it features the Genie and the Sorcerer. One of the signs on the road leading to the Black Forest reads as "Abandon hope, all ye who enter," which is a translation of the inscription over the door to hell in Dante's epic poem, The Divine Comedy. And Mr. Darcy, who Edwin and Sarah wanted to introduce to Alice, is a reference to the character Fitzwilliam Darcy in the Jane Austen novel Pride and Prejudice.
Mr. Darcy. I like that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Yes, that was very good. I approve. All right. In Edwin's home, there's a painting of a ship. That same painting can be seen in Granny's bed and breakfast in the Once Upon a Time episodes, The Thing You Love Most and The Price of Gold, which are season 1 episodes of Once Upon a Time, The Mothership. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And the label on Dr. Lydgate's bottle says pure laudanum, grains opium. Oh wait, I should say laudanum 451/2, grains opium, and 65% alcohol. Poison. Dose: 3 months old, 3 drops. 1 year old, 4 drops. 14 years old, 5 drops. 10 years old, 14 drops.
You're wrong.
20 years old, 25 drops. Adults, 30 drops.
Oh my.
Well, there you go.
Well,
Just in
there.
case if you were wondering. And the fireplace in Dr. Lydgate's office has the same design as the mayor's office at the Storybrooke Town Hall on Once Upon a Time, indicating that it is a redressed set.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I agree. So on that note, join us next time for a brand new installment of Storybrooke Weekly Mirror in Wonderland. Visit the Poppy Chulo Radio archives to download this episode and many more. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chulo Radio programs by visiting poppychuloradio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through iTunes. Just search for Storybrooke Weekly Mirror in Wonderland and subscribe. Please like us on Facebook by going to facebook.com/Storybrooke Weekly Mirror. You can also like Poppy Chulo Radio on Facebook by going to facebook.com/Poppy Chulo Radio. Help support Poppy Chulo Radio financially by visiting gofundme.com/Poppy Chulo Radio. Email us via contact@poppychuloradio.com with any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chulo Radio team as an on-air personality or blog contributor? Email talent@poppychuloradio.com. Co-hosts, please wish the listeners a good night.
Good
Good night,
night.
guys.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific throughout the summer for a brand new installment of Storybrooke Weekly Mirror in Wonderland. Good night, everyone.